and take some questions from the audience. So let's get into this.
All right, let's do.
So, what do you think about people with like schizophrenia and autism? Are they connected to like the star seeds that have been coming here since like the 60s and 70s, perhaps even early as the 40s?
So what I was saying is that the schizophrenia, Asperger's, autism are people that have extremely enhanced genetics. They're actually the most advanced souls in the universe. They're used to operating with vehicles that are the equivalent of quantum computers, and so it's very hard for them to adapt to this third-dimensional mortal body. You know, that's why it's hard for them to fit in, because they're so freaking advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, unfortunately, those that went into the schizophrenic aspect of reality were actually mentally fractured by the CIA. A lot of them were part of the secret space programs that were used as super soldiers, and then they were sent back with a scattered consciousness as to why they still have different personalities.
Is that like the 20 and back kind of thing that you're talking about?
Yes, the 20 and back. Yes, they served the 20 and back, and not only have their minds been blank slated from all their memories in the programs, but they've also been left mentally fragmentalized, where their consciousness is just scattered on different personalities. But they're highly gifted. Yeah,
that's incredible.
And then the kid. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I find that incredible. I'm sure that we have that technology, and going 20 and back, I've watched Corey Goode and Emery Smith, things like that, right? And tried to wrap my head around that, and it's pretty difficult.
It is. And then the kids that have autism, or even now the adults, a lot of the adults that were born in the 70s and 80s have autism, whether they're ranging high functioning or low functioning, those are actually the most advanced souls in the multiverse. That's why it's very hard for them, especially those that are on the low functioning scale, to communicate and use verbatim. It's easier for them to just read minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very telepathic. And the reason they space off into space, or they look up at space for like a long period of time, is because they're actually communicating with other beings from higher dimensions. And those are the low functioning. Now, the high functioning, those that are considered Asperger's, are actually they're the Teslas. They are the ones that are going to take us into the space age. They are a gift to the world. So while conventional society is trying to downgrade them, right, stigmatizing them, they're actually the greatest gift, the cream of the crop of the entire starseed nation. Unfortunately, they have been classified or degraded in the categories of mental disorders, and that is just such a shame.
Do you think
people only knew how powerful they were?
Do you think that doctors are aware of this, and the pharmaceutical is aware of this, and they've created all these drugs and such to really suppress these people, instead of like facilitating them and saying, okay, let's see what we can do and work with you, instead of chemically inducing them so that they can't do what they're here to do?
Well, at the very surface level of the conventional society, the doctors have no clue. But those people that are behind the doctors, like the American Medical Association, and those that are associated with the pharmaceutical companies, know about it, because at the highest level, they in turn are run by the dark cult, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And the dark cult has always had access to the prophecies of a time when these gifted kids would start incarnating on Earth. And so yes, they actually intelligently conspired to suppress them from the beginning, as to why they were labeled and why they were giving them these chemical drugs in order to suppress their abilities, while at the same time being hypocritical. A lot of these people were used by our own CIA in my lab programs, where they were abducted to cultivate their talents, facilitate their talents in a controlled environment in order to use them in the secret space program. That's how much of a hypocrite our shadow government has been. Well, they're suppressing it openly, secretly. They're exploring their talents. Yeah.
That's pretty far out there. It's hypocritical, extremely. I was gonna
Very.
say, is that like connected to like the remote viewing program that the CIA had? I forgot what the project was called, but is that kind of like what they're working towards there?
They have already, yes. They developed many people who have the ability to literally remote view
Mm-hmm.
and see things beyond the physical, like
Yeah,
take their consciousness to any part of the world if they wanted to. So these programs have existed since the 60s.
and we
You
can
know,
all do that, can't we, Ismail? If you want to
with enough
remote
technique
view,
and meditation, yes.
yeah.
If we really set ourselves out by disciplining ourselves, doing the meditations, the techniques, a lot of this has to do with mental techniques,
Mm-hmm.
which is related to shifting the beta wave frequency state of the mind to higher frequencies and higher states of consciousness, like
Mm-hmm.
alpha, delta, and stuff. And there's many techniques that will allow us to tap into those higher frequencies, which pretty much allows us to do supernatural things.
That's super cool. I've always believed that we are capable of doing so. It's just through a little bit of shadow work, some discipline, and we can pretty much do anything we want because we are really the chosen race, right? We are.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because we are, I've heard that again and again, and I don't know, if it, so how can I put this? We've heard in the past that the Earth is the center of the universe, and that the humans are the only life form kind of deal, and the humans are ultimate. I've always thought that to be like more based on ego, right? Like the human ego that's saying that we're the center of the universe and that we are the key holders to pretty much a lot of things. And now I'm beginning to understand that a little bit differently because ignorance is being raised. And I'm understanding that our ancestors knew this to begin with, and then they were pushing that message forward, but it got diluted somehow in the course of time. And we've just misunderstood it now.
Yes, that's what happened. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right.
So Ismail, let me got some questions coming in here. Okay, so with the autism and ADHD and things like that, why are these forms? Here's a question from Matt Gomez. Why are these terms often associated with serial killers? Right? Is there like
Because yes, because what they do is they through MK Ultra they scatter their consciousness, whether it's trauma based or shock based,
Mhm.
and what they do is when they get them into these different personalities, they have trigger codes where all they have to do is send a signal through the phone towers, and then that's what causes people like the latest kid that blew up those kids in Texas last month.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the guy 2 years ago that shot at the Las Vegas shooting. So
Mhm.
they're under mind control, and so the CIA just hits the frequency. The frequency sends the signal, and that personality takes over. So that's why when they're in court or when they're facing the judge, and the judge asks them like, "Why did you do it?" They say, "I don't remember. I don't understand how I did it." They
Mhm.
have no recollection of that.
That's like that Colorado shooter where
Yes,
he went to the theater, did his thing, and then they showed him afterwards, and it was a completely different person, right? So
exactly.
would that go along with like Timothy McVeigh and things like
Yes,
that as well, where these people just got activated and do horrendous things?
yes, Timothy McVeigh. Every incident that involves a mass shooting
Hmm.
are people that are under mind control. It's all run by the deep state. Yes.
You think he was a reptilian,
Who?
Timothy McVeigh, or was he just
No,
an
he was actually a
average guy?
clone.
He was a
He
clone.
was actually he was a soulless clone. Yes, and
Hmm.
and nowadays a lot of soulless clones are actually doing the dirty work
Hmm.
for the shadow government or the hidden powers.
Yeah, let's get into that a
Sure.
little bit. I've always had this thought, and that I'm sure you're aware of walk-ins, right? And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if some of these soulless people that are out there, where the spirit has decided to vacate the body, and there's no one else to inhabit the body, but the body has to carry out that laws of nature, right? It needs to grow old and it needs to die. And during that entire time, after the soul has abandoned the body, the body is up to being hijacked, and really doesn't have a soul. Is that kind of what you're thinking as well, or is there like bodies like clones, for instance, that wouldn't have a soul?
Um, in the first thing that you're referring to, there is a soul contract between two spirits. So when one spirit decides to check out, another one comes, and so many extraterrestrials signed that contract and made that deal with certain members of the human race in order to take over their bodies. Yes. In the second part of the subject that you were mentioning, yes, there is a lot of soulless clones. People that have been actually cloned, but of course they can't carbon copy the spirit. It's just cells. And what they do is they connect those clones to an artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence are pretty much controlling them. So they're doing everything that the AI is wanting them to do. So in other words, they're like NPCs. They're like the people in the Matrix, right? All the black agents with the black suits. That's what they are. Yeah, exactly.
I like.
And so we have over 300,000 million soulless clones that you could be walking down the street next to one and you would not notice that they're actually not human, but they look human. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're just generated by the system.
Yeah. You're so right, Ismael, because my wife and I have had these discussions many times, and we're like, when we see somebody that look human, right, but they really don't look human, right? There's something off about them where they just appear to be like us, but they're not. And I see them walking around, like literally, my wife and I will, rudely point them out, right? We're driving and we're like, wow, baby, you see that guy? It doesn't look human, does he? And, it's just the facial features and how really they carry themselves too is really what, sticks them out.
Yeah, they don't really show emotion much. So we have two categories. The first category is an invasion of an ancient AI and its minions that are developing human bodies in order for them to use as avatars. Those are synthetics as well. They're soulless, and intelligences possessing, bodies. And then some of them are straight out androids. They're straight out androids that look humanoid and possess no soul, no emotions. So we have different categories of these NPCs that are living on Earth right now.
Here's a good question. Is it possible to have a parent or sibling that's an NPV?
NPC? I believe so. Yes, because especially if the sibling or the parent were cloned, then and replaced with the clone, then that's how that could be possible. Yes. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I had to let my cat out. She
was
here just meowing away, and I didn't want her to harass us. Now I'm wondering, how does this replacement happen, with a clone? Who's doing that? And
the military-industrial complex and the shadow government, they have technology that is 600 to 900 years ahead of us. So what they do is they open up a portal, they take the person, they get the genetics, and there's two ways of cloning them. They could do it biologically through the replication of cells, or they could do it in a tank with liquid. Like we see in the sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
And what they do is after they kill that person, they go back to the place where they took the person, they open up the portal, and then they pop in the clone. And so the family never knew if that's the real dad or if the real daughter or the real brother. It's just they act the same. They're programmed to be the same. You would have no clue that you're actually living with the synthetic that you thought was your organic family.
Oh my God!
This world is crazy. If people only understood, the depth of disclosure. I mean, people are going to be shitting their pants.
I guess we have been getting disclosure through all these Marvel movies, right? And The Matrix is a documentary, essentially, and everything they tell us in these Marvel movies, it seems to point in a direction where they're telling us something, but they're not, right? And they're showing us this technology that they have, but it's not really available to the public. But that's been the norm too, right? Where the militaries had technology for like 50, 60 years, and then they release it to the public. Like the microwave was a great example. They had it in World War II and then didn't bring it out until like what, the 60s or the 70s, right? So yeah, very interesting. So let's go back to the activation. Let's talk a little code language here because of the censorship that happens here on YouTube. Now, the poison that they've put into people's bodies, that they've been forced to take, we know that it has nano technology in it. It can, charge itself and transmit information and receive information. Do you think that they're going to try to use that somehow to, cause mayhem and destruction like that they have with these like mass shooters and such? Or just like send signals to your body where organs shut down or, things like that?
Yes, it all depends on. Well, first of all, there's a period that about 3 to 4 years before the nanotech becomes activated by 5G. So 5G is the signal that turns on, the I guess the nano thinking machines in order to eventually take over the cerebral and the central nervous system, therefore causing a full possession of the individual. In most worlds, it's a process that takes 3 to 4 years. It's only been 2 years, so the only thing that could prevent a straight out zombie apocalypse from happening is if we have the solar flash, because the solar flash is the only thing that can nuke those little nanobots and just neutralize the heck out of them. So that's why I always believe that it's coming. It has to come before 2024. Otherwise, we're going to have a scenario where many are going to be passing away. Billions are just going to die, and then at the same time, those that don't die are going to be just controlled by the Borg. And they're not going to be themselves anymore.
Yeah,
they're going to be completely synthetic. Yeah.
That's scary stuff. It's kind of interesting because I just did a series on the Looking Glass and the Coronavisor, and in that they're talking that there's going to be a timeline shift, and these guys are trying to create all these events to change the timeline so it benefits them. But it seems that all the timelines are just going to fall into like one timeline in 2030, where like this ascension is going to take place. Now, is that when this solar flash is going to happen, or has the solar flash already happened and it just hasn't reached us just yet?
Well, it hasn't happened in terms of linear time, but in terms of how all time exists simultaneously, considering that the future is already happening, yes. And so there will be a bifurcation of timelines that is going to split, the positive ascending timeline and then those that go into the negative AI descending timeline that are going to go into a further, digital matrix. World ruled by technocracy, so there will be some sort of a bifurcation of timelines. Those that are ascending are going to not experience the technocratic tyranny that is coming, and those that are not ascending, unfortunately, will be experiencing at least 1,000 years of living in a tyrannical technocratic world where the AI is dominant.
That's kind of like what the Hopi are talking about too, right, in their prophecy.
I'm not familiar with their prophecy, but I've heard about that. They talk about a timeline split too.
Yeah, the Anasazi, they, I guess they pass it forward and they say that there's going to come a time when humanity is going to be given a choice. And if they make the right choice, then they'll go on a timeline or on a path that is, of unity and love and acceptance, and where money is not important and it's about spirituality and self-betterment. But then there's the other timeline that if you make the wrong choice, then, it's going to be destructive, a lot of wars, a lot of disease, famines, things like that. But, Ismael, I interpret that more, from the railroad track theory, right? Where, you're on a railroad and then you're going and eventually they just start to split apart and then you don't see that. And, that's kind of how I see this timeline happening. What's your thought on that?
That's a very good analogy. Dolores Cannon described it as a splitting of worlds, not like a literal physical split, but where you have two Earths that are like kind of like a cell becoming two, dividing into two.
Yeah.
One, becoming part of the negative timeline, and the other one becoming part of the positive, ascending, new heaven on earth timeline. Yes.
So what happens after that 1,000 years?
Then those two timelines merge for one final clash between what I am prophesizing to be the last war between meta-angelic humans who didn't merge with the technology but did it naturally by activating dormant DNA, especially as the solar flash takes place. That's what's going to trigger the other DNA to come on. And those that decided to follow the transhumanist path, like the cyborgs, and the artificial intelligence, there's going to be a final clash between what I call meta-humans and machine and cyborgs, and that's going to determine the outcome of everything. So that's the final war, actually. And that's what the Bible and many other books talk about, how there's going to be 1,000 years of peace, or at least evil is going to be locked away for 1,000 years and then released again for one final battle. That's the analogy of that. Sorry?
Yeah, I was just saying, how interesting. Do you think is this a cycle, Ismael, that happens again and again? Because we look at like the Yuga cycles, for instance, and they have like these extreme timelines, right? Where one day is like 4.5 billion years, which I understand, right? It can be that. How is that connected?
Yes, everything is cyclic in nature, cyclical. So this has happened before in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're repeating, cosmic history here once again.
Do you think it will happen again? Like if we, like when you're saying that we'll have that final clash, that final battle of, good and evil, then after that, is the cycle just going to, repeat itself, kind of like a matrix program that resets and then it starts all over again and you have to go through the process?
I think perhaps in a different creation, in a different universe, there will once again be an experimentation in duality where everything is once again in contrast or in opposites, light and dark, but that's probably not going to happen for another good millions and millions of years from now. But at least for millions and millions of years of now, the cosmos is going to have peace after that final war against AI.
Now, is AI like a form of consciousness, or is it like an artificial consciousness?
It is the consciousness of the archons. The archon consciousness is what embodies artificial intelligence. That's why I always tell people that archons, entities, and AI are one and the same. The AI is the vehicle in which the archon consciousness could embody and use as a host to operate in the material realms. Yeah.
That's interesting. What do you think about Elon Musk trying to stick Neuralinks in our head? Is that like all of this?
Yeah, he's unfortunately he is serving the AI. He is serving the Dark Lord. He's been compromised. Unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it's really too bad.
It turns out that him and Mark Zuckerman have had a lifetime in Atlantis where they also were trying to implement some sort of an AI system then, and that's the reason why Atlantis really declined, because it was trying to replace humanity back then with transhumanism. Yeah.
Now speaking
so
of,
again, they're trying to do it again. History repeating itself.
How awful, right?
Yeah.
That's terrible. Let's set up another question here. Actually, before we do that, let me ask you about the Archon. Now, I sit in here in my house and my wife as well, and you can turn the lights off, and then you see like these dark shadow beings floating around. Is that an Archon, or is that something like a totally different being altogether?
It could be different things. It could be a gray. It could be some sort of an dark extraterrestrial force in your house. It could also be a dark spirit or an evil spirit. So I guess by virtue of that, yes, it's an Archon energy entity. So it could be Archon energy.
They feed off our energy, right? Who is it? Don Juan, right? Is it Don Juan that was saying that they gave us their mind and then they feed off of our energy and rear us like we do chickens for food?
Yes, exactly. Yes, they do feed off of our energy only when we are in a state of fear, pain,
Mhm.
or anxiety. That's their food. That's their food
Yeah,
supply. Yeah,
that triggers them, right? They must love war
exactly.
then.
But it also works the other way with beings of light and angelics. When we are happy, joyful, peaceful, in a high level of emotional vibration, they feed off of that good energy as well.
Mhm. And then
And
that's
that's
when
what
the
supports
angels
them.
show up, right?
And that's when the archangels are, yeah, exactly. That's one way to protect yourself is vibrating at a very high frequency, by feeling the opposite of fear, which is love, peace, and love, peace, and confidence and assuredness.
Yeah, and always be in that state of mind of love and
Exactly.
work from that heart space, right? As long as you're working from that heart space, then nothing can really compromise you, because love is the really the only frequency, and everything else just appears to be an illusion. And that,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. Let's hit this question here, Ismail.
Sure.
Is from someone said, "Are med beds being mass produced on the moon right now?" I wasn't sure if they were being produced on the moon, but I do know that there's med beds being produced here on Earth. But what do you think?
They are. They're being mass produced as I speak. Since 2016 to 2018, ever since the Earth Alliance cleaned house in our solar system,
Hmm.
they've been using those facilities in the moon and of course even on Mars to produce as many med bits as possible, so that when the disclosure takes place, immediately these healing modalities are going to replace the entire medical system worldwide.
Do you think they may release that technology here pretty soon to the general public because of what's happened here in the last couple of years with the
Well,
poison
they're
and things
they're
like that?
already starting to release it to individuals, private
Mhm.
citizens, who are actually developing, I guess, the patents in their own
Mhm.
way, because they were given the actual formula. And so many people already on the earth are beginning to develop these frequency gadgets that I guess heal you, by frequency. There's different terminologies, but they're all linked to the idea of you know med beds, holographic regenerators, and so on and so forth. It's all part of the same technology. So
Mhm.
yes, they're already many people are already having those technologies here.
That's
It's just a
phenomenal.
matter of say that again.
I said that's phenomenal. That's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. What were you gonna say, Ismail?
Oh, I was going to say it's just a matter of time before they are available to the general public
Hmm. Right now they're probably
on a
like
mass scale.
$15.
Oh, I'm not sure the price, but I do know that a lot of Earthlings already have access to those technologies.
I know the elites would have access to this, because you never hear about the elites dying from cancer or dying from any kind of disease. They usually live like 106, 110 years old, and then they pass on, right? So it seems that they have had access to this technology for a very, very long time, right? Because you hear about people dying of cancer, but you never hear like Warren Buffett died from cancer, or the only actually person that we know of was the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, right? What do you think of Steve Jobs?
I think in the end, when he realized that he was playing with the wrong side, he decided to have a conversion,
Hmm.
and that's when they took him out. Yeah, he didn't die naturally. They took him out
Yeah, yeah.
because yeah.
They say
But,
pancreatitis cancer, right? Because he
oh
ate
no no no.
that's all he ate was fruit, right? He didn't eat anything else. I was like, well, that's pretty hard to buy. That's like Epstein.
Exactly. Which, by the way, is still alive. They faked
Yeah,
his death.
yeah, absolutely. I've actually put videos up on my Facebook page where there's a drone, right, that flies over this island, and there's Jeffrey Epstein down there hanging out with with some dude next to a golf cart. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me, because it's pretty. I find it quite interesting, as because just recently we had that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, and they say that was like the biggest trial of celebrity history, and and then here we had a Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and nothing was streamed. No names have been dropped, and I don't expect that any names are going to be dropped from from that investigation. So, like, what are your thoughts on like this Ghislaine Maxwell and and the laundry list of shit that she has, that she could bring all these people down, but they're choosing not to do so?
Well, this whole thing is part of a greater international network of people who have been doing this with kids for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes beyond just it's a global phenomena.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why they're trying to divert attention from that and not exposing who was involved is because a lot of people's favorite celebrities, I'm not going to mention any names, and a lot of people's trusted politicians are on that list.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're really trying so hard to keep that under closed doors, because I mean, wow, the entire world structure would have to step down
Mm-hmm.
if this comes to light. Yeah,
All of them. I know
yes,
our prime
exactly.
minister, he hangs out with convicted pedophiles,
Mhm.
and he's had accusations made against him, and paid them off, and he belongs to that World Economic Forum, the young leaders of today, or whatever that organization is called, right? So yeah, it's all of them will go down. Now, do you think this is the reason why that big country over there is taking the shit out of that little small country, is because of the child trafficking and the biolabs and things
Oh
like
yeah, that's where most of the biolabs and most of the trafficking was taking place.
that? Mm-hmm.
And so the big country that is in there cleaning house is actually part of the White Hats.
Mm-hmm.
They're working with the alliance. Yeah, they're
Okay.
clean. They're starting to clean house. This is just the beginning. Australia's next. Oops.
Mm.
Oh man, I just dropped the bomb. For entertaining purposes only, okay, people.
That's right. For entertainment purposes only. That was a wonderful interview, actually. I really enjoyed that. He's a very good interviewer. I really enjoyed the back and forth that you guys had. Wonderful job on that.
Thank
So,
you.
do you think that okay? So we know that this big bad Russia, right? Big bad Russia has been like that for forever now, and it's been a scapegoat. And with everything that's happening right now, with inflation, high oil prices, things like that, I had a really good question that popped up here that I'd like to hit up. Yeah, right here. It comes from I don't know the name. I'll just call her Kay. Is there a good possibility that our financial system, as we know it, will collapse and the new system ushered in by July?
That could be a very strong possibility due to the 7/7 portal in July. That could have a strong repercussion on the decline of the old system being replaced by the new system. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that could be a possibility.
Is that where
We're hoping. We're hoping. I mean,
is that where Bitcoin comes into place and all these
oh
other
no,
digital
no,
currencies?
oh
No?
no. That's all part of the beast system. That's all
Mhm.
controlled by AI.
Okay, so what kind of system do you think we'll like get into? Would it be like
The quantum. It's called the QFS, the Quantum Financial System,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to act as a universal bank of abundance, where all the wealth that was taken from us by the elites is going to be redistributed back to the people. And that ties in with the Nasera and Gesera programs that are also going to bring the power back to the people.
Yeah, and the Sarah, that's the like Christ consciousness, right? The
No,
Sarah.
Nasera is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
yeah,
I was
that's
thinking about, like, what is it? Sophia, I think, is this the Sophia energy, or I may be wrong on that, but
and then Gesera is the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act.
mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know anything about that. So far I've just been keeping an eye on Bitcoin, and people are trying to get me to buy Bitcoin, and I'm just
Oh,
not
don't!
into
It's going to
that.
come. It's going to come crashing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I'm not into that at all. It's like, no,
yeah.
I'm more into barter and trade, and go off my good looks.
There you go. I think that's
Yeah.
the old way of doing things, and I think we're eventually going to be heading there, where it's going to be a system of bartering.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have something to contribute based on their talents and gifts.
That's kind of like
Mhm.
Ubuntu, as to what Michael Tallinger talks about, where in your community, everyone works together and your skills and your abilities are the currency. And that is what helps the community advance further. And then if the next community needs something, that you go over there and you help them, and kind of vice versa. And it can work.
Mhm.
Only if we get rid of the elites and the greed that's really stuck with us in this last what can I call it, like the Kali Yuga, right? The Dark Ages, and and we're coming out of that now, right, Ismail?
Absolutely. We're in the final days. I would say hours, any day now. We're
Oh, I
there.
wait, I'm
Yeah, we've made it this far.
Is this the
And
reason why a lot of people are getting ascension sickness?
yes, or I guess they're called symptoms. There's different, um, I guess, different things that are associated with the changes that are happening, and we're not even the same as we were a year ago. People are actually changing. You know, the transformation of human consciousness is already in progress. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of time before the bodies catch up.
I can speak from from experience, because what I've noticed with my own body is that when I put my hand up like that, or my arm up like that in the sun, I can see glitters, right? It's almost like I'm sweating crystals, right? And it's quite interesting. I noticed that a couple of years ago, and then now it seems to be more and more and more now. And I wonder if other people are going through the same thing, because I know one other person is, right? So do you think that there's other that are going through the same thing, turning into like crystalline and going into that fifth, sixth, density or dimension?
Millions of us are going
Mhm.
through that. Yes,
Very
with
cool.
different symptoms. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of them.
man, I got those symptoms tonight. Yeah, I picked up a cold a couple of days ago, and it's been kicking the shit out of me. And then I had our friend Dr. Joan, do some healing on me today. So that really helped, and I appreciate that. That's why I may not seem so robust tonight, Esmail. Usually I'm pretty gung ho. Let's hit up this question from
Sure.
Higher Dimensions.
Mhm.
Higher Dimension asks, how can we know if we have served in the 20 and back? I have a feeling I'm working on the arcs recently discovered that are activating while I'm sleeping in astral form.
That's a very good indicator. That's how I was receiving my memories, is through dreams
Hmm.
as well. Also, if you've ever had missing time, where you didn't know how you ended up there without knowing what you did prior to getting to that place in time, and that's a way of noticing that you were missing time. So these are different, I guess, ways of finding out if you were part of the program,
What about missing memories?
or that too. Having glimpses, um, visuals coming into your mind. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
I've
part of
got
it as well.
about, I would say I can't remember anything from about 1994 until about like 2001, 2000 or so. And there's that 6 years where I don't have any memory, because my friends will say, hey, do you remember hanging out with this guy, or remember partying with this person? And they can recall the details. And to me, I don't recall the name, the face, nothing of any kind. What do you think that is that like type of like 20 and back, or
It
an
could be,
abduction, or
it could be, it could be 20 and back, or it could be just that they're, because you're that powerful. They don't really want you to remember things.
Mhm. It's
Um, it's happening to a lot of people. You're not the only one that has no recollection of what happened a few years ago, or 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, because during that time was missing. Some really weird things happened to me, where I was meditating, and I was near a beach, and I was laying on a bench and meditating, and I was able to levitate myself about an inch or so off the bench, and then my brother had called out my name, and I like dropped, right? I can feel my head and my shoulders and my hips and my heels hit the bench at the very same time. But oddly enough, a couple of days later, I had this awareness as to the Princess Diana was going to pass, and that something was going to happen to her. I just didn't know exactly what, but I knew she was going to pass, and I told my brother that. And then 3 days later, that happened, and then after that, right during that time, I had another awareness that, the next day, Mother Teresa was going to pass, but exactly, from a heart failure. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. And then the next day when I was watching the news, that news came across. And weirdly enough, after that, I just have this gap where, there's just no recollection of any, kind, any deep recollection, right? Like I can, if I wanted to think back really hard, I'm sure I could probably come up with something here and there, but nothing serious, like, like last week, for instance.
You could have been blank slated because of your gifts. It seems like you are a precog. You could have dreams. You see dreams, things in the future in dreams. Mm-hmm. And so because that's a talent that is a threat to them, they use blank slate technology on people, and they've been using that since the 70s.
Yeah. So let's talk about some star seeds here. After from what I understand, after Trinity and Nagasaki and Hiroshima and stuff, after we dropped the nuclear bombs, the star seeds began to came in at that time, right? Late 40s, early 50s, and they've continued on up until now. Now, why do you think it was that it was in the 40s that started, and why not like earlier, when say during the Great Depression or World War I, or things like that? Like, why particularly that moment for starseeds to decide to come into Earth and intervene, right? Give it that Sopranos intervention.
That was a way that the Galactic Federation it was a program that they initiated to save the Earth, because once we blew up the atom bomb, that actually sent a signal to the Federation. It alerted them because they were very concerned how this new weapon was going to have repercussions throughout the multiverse due to the enormity of its power. And so that's when the Federation was alerted. And so there was a huge meeting involving, different representative races from many, many universes that came together in order to protect the Earth, which is the living library of the cosmos, the great experiment. They initiated the Starseed Plan in order to save the Earth from heading into that nuclear disaster direction that it was already heading into. And so that's why the Starseed program was initiated. It was a way to infiltrate this world and change it from within in order to raise the vibration with our own energy, because we vibrate at a higher frequency. So not only that, but we are also anchor points of the higher vibrational frequency that is coming in through the photon belt, or that is coming in through our sun, which is photon energy. So we act as anchor points of that higher vibrational energy. And so our purpose here was to not only save the planet and raise the frequency, but also act as transmuters of dark, dense, negative energy. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to bring the Earth to a higher frequency and establish the crystalline grid, which is the ley line of, or the crystalline, which is the grid system of the Christ consciousness, by the way. And so our purpose here was multifaceted. And so that's when the first wave of starseeds began to come in the late 40s, all throughout the 50s, early 60s, and 60s, and late 60s, I'm sorry. And then the second wave came in throughout the 70s and 80s and 90s. And then finally, the third wave have been coming in around 2000 and to the present.
So my granddaughter would be one of the indigo starseeds?
It appears so, yes. I think now every child is being born a starseed because we're getting so close to the shift.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I've talked about this on the channel here before, and compared to say like 30, 40 years ago, or even 20 years ago, kids nowadays, you hear from every household across the world that my baby's so smart. My baby can walk earlier, crawling earlier, becoming self-sufficient earlier. And that seems to be the trend that you just hear, right across the world. Now one can say, oh, well, that's the ego of the parent and blah, blah, blah. But, sure, it could be. But when you're hearing it from billions of people across the world, the very same thing, right, then, you can't really look at that ego, and you have to, think to yourself that there's something going on here. Like, kids are able to move things with their hands. I saw, maybe you've seen this video as well, where, there's this father with his son and daughter at a kitchen island, and the son is sitting here and the daughter is sitting behind her brother, and there's a cup, Ismael, that's like about a good 2 feet away, and this kid like literally goes like this, goes like that, and that cup moved like that entire 2 feet, and it wasn't very slow either. It was like almost instant, like that. And I was looking at it and I was like, how could that not faze the father, unless the dad is seeing this again and again and again? This is just a norm for these kids. And I wonder if all of them have the same ability and capacity to manipulate matter and energy and time and space, because really that's what that would be, right? Is manipulating time and space to move that object from here to here.
Yes, a lot of kids are being born with these gifts already in place.
Let me hit up a question here. Okay, so going back to the memory, right? I've got lots of people in the crowd saying that they've had a memory block, and that they're getting flashbacks now of what's happened in the past. And Greg Herrera asks, how can I get my memory back, and how can I remember my dreams? I get a memory wipe every time I wake up.
That's a very hard one, because a lot of people can't remember their dreams. A lot of people seem to have memory issues, especially people that I know personally. I would say that the best thing to do is, be mindful of your thoughts throughout the day. Try to build your concentration. Do a technique where you're able to focus all your attention on a particular object, and you hold that attention and try to do it for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. At first, it's impossible to do it past the 15, 20-second mark, because then your mind starts wandering with all these other thoughts. But the whole point is to build your concentration. Once you're able to master that, then you're able to go into meditation. Because if you learn how to meditate, you're actually learning how to take yourself from the, I guess, beta wavelength of consciousness, which is the wavelength that is very that forgets, that is very programmable. That is pretty much the wave where most people exist as sheep. And you take that and you alter it, or you shift it to the to the alpha, and then of course the beta. And once you're able to do that, you'll be able to access your memories, and you'll be able to have clear, lucid dreaming, and wake up with full recollection of everything you dreamed.
No, cool. So, I'm going to try that. I've always said, it's extremely difficult. I've said that, take a pencil and put a pencil in front of you, and, take in all of the visuals of that pencil, and close your eyes and try to replicate that pencil in your mind exactly as how you see it. And it's not easy, right? It's, sometimes you can't even, project that pencil, even though you're looking at it, and then you close your eyes and you just simply can't form that image in your mind. So, again, that goes back to meditation and, self-discipline, and teaching yourself really on how to work this avatar, this body computer that we have, because this is really the most advanced piece of machinery in the cosmos, right? Look what it does. It regenerates itself, it grows, and it has a lot of things. Now, speaking of that, do you think that the human being has consciousness within it, or is the human being accessing consciousness which is non-local?
The human being is accessing consciousness that is non-local. Our mind is not encased within these physical forms. Our mind is a field of energy that is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's in everywhere in the cosmos. It's just that we've been conditioned and programmed to think that our mind is here, within our skull.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what limits us. The moment we unlearn that and adopt the idea that our mind is everywhere, then that's when we begin to access these abilities like remote viewing, astral projection, manipulating energy and matter from a distance.
You have a class that you teach on this, right? You have workshops and such?
I started a Starseed cosmology course that provides people with the higher level cosmology, history of the galaxy. I describe many different extraterrestrial races in which they could identify with. And not only do I provide detailed information of higher knowledge, but I also, at the end, as a bonus, I teach a technique that will allow you to become multidimensional. Of course, only if you put it into practice.
Mm-hmm. Where people can go to connect with you on that? Your
what I could do, my bio for my Starseed cosmology class is on my Instagram. I could also send you the link if you want to put it in the description.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I had someone leave a comment on my website under your profile, and they were asking this question on how they can, connect to take the course. So I thought
I do have to inform you though that I'm actually booked all the way till August. So as of today, we just opened up the first class for September. So if you guys really want to, get your spot for September, which is 2 months from now, I would sign up now because I have a feeling that's going to be booked in about a week.
Mm-hmm. Book tonight, brother. Are these online or in person?
It's online. Yeah,
okay,
it's online. Cool. So there's three courses. Each one is about 2 hours, where I go through a lot of valuable, in-depth information, describing dimensions, describing different types of advanced space age cultures, higher level cosmology, and much more. So it's a three course program, and we do it once a week. So it's not like every day, 3 days in a row. It's once a week, like every Wednesday or every Monday or something like that.
You're a galactic historian, so I bet that'd be a pretty amazing class. I think I'm gonna have to sign up for that and get some more downloads from you.
Well, what I do is I teach you how to activate so that you could get your own downloads and access the Akashic records for yourself, on top of providing you with high-level information.
You're not going to find anywhere else. How did you learn all of this, Ismael? Right, because this is like really, really deep stuff, and so I'm just wondering like how you learned this. I'm sure that you read tons and tons of books to come up with what you have, but I'd still like to hear from you on like how you came across this, what brought your interest into this, or was it like really within you when it just kind of sprouted, so to say, right? Your life's mission, your goals for being on this planet.
Well, I'm an awakened starseed. I've always been aware of my galactic self. I've always felt like I was strange to this world. It was very hard to fit in. So from the beginning, I knew I was different. Ever since I was a child, even as a teenager, I've always been obsessed with the supernatural, with metaphysics, extraterrestrials. So I became very in tune with my higher self. I began to, download information through meditation. And I also did the research to back it up, reading perhaps a few thousand books in the course of my life. Yeah. With a photographic memory.
You have a photographic memory?
When it comes to reading knowledge, yes. But if I have to sit down and watch a YouTube video on how to change the backing of your settings, or what that is, or just technical stuff like that, then I have no clue. I have no understanding.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep in what you need, right? And
exactly.
then X the rest. So we're hitting the hour mark, and let me just finish it off with this final question. And it kind of really falls into the theme of what we've been talking about here this evening. And it's from Leanne Walker. And she says, is it imperative for gifted people to stay away from mind altering substances like alcohol and drugs, both legal and illegal?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Do
Yes.
you think marijuana? What do you think about marijuana? Do
Uh,
you think that has a different, all the like conscious altering?
I guess that could be the only exception, just because it is a living entity, and um, it does activate the pineal gland. It does allow um, it does allow your consciousness to be in a state where you could access higher frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
If you use it right, of course, don't overdo it. Just take one or two rips and just be in that, state of Zen without getting too numb. So, if you do it for spiritual reasons, like if you want to go into a deep meditation, it acts as a tool
Mm-hmm.
to get you there faster. And that goes as well with like mushrooms and plant medicine. Again, in a controlled environment, I would recommend, exploring plant medicine, ayahuasca and stuff like that. Yeah.
What about LSD?
It's chemical driven. I wouldn't try LSD. I
Yeah,
wouldn't do that anymore. That's like putting poison in your body. Yeah.
I like that. I don't do that anymore. I won't put that.
Oh no, I've only tried it twice in my life, and I've had a bad experience as a teenager. I never again did I do that stuff.
Yeah, that was a bad guy, and I had multiple experiences with it. And last time I tried it, I was 18, and I'm like 45 now, and it's not for me. But mushrooms, I find has that that it's kind of hard to explain what it like consciously yeah, I'm able
Mhm.
to understand myself at a much deeper level when I'm on mushrooms, and especially when I'm just sitting there and zoning, right, and I'm not talking to anyone, and just zone out, and I feel like I can connect with myself far more internally than without mushrooms, or yeah, without mushrooms. But oddly enough, if you got somebody playing drums, those Jamaican drums and things like that, and the beat from that and the sound from that, I find it really intensifies the experience even more because of that sound vibration. Awesome, brother Ismael. Thank you very much.